New York City has a really diverse housing stock. We've got skyscrapers, we've got single-family homes, but most of them have been built before the 1970s. And so if we're looking to make policy that will mitigate urban heat islands, it's a little bit easier to prescribe best practices for new buildings. And it's a much more daunting challenge to look at retrofitting some of the older housing stock. But it's a challenge really worthy of our time, because the houses that need retrofitting are also the houses where people are suffering and dying from heat-related illnesses. I found working with some of the professionals that I worked with to be the most rewarding aspect of my research. I was able to speak and learn from people who've been working in scientific research and design and policy and social activism. Being able to benefit from their experience and their dedication to urban heat islands and urban heat island mitigation really informed the process through which I was able to conduct the research with the help of the Urban Design Forum, and kind of has led me on a path for greater exploration into the ways that I could apply my research.
As a collaborative research grant recipient, that is a program that seeks to pair graduate students with well-renowned faculty and mentors, it was challenging in the beginning to narrow down exactly a very concrete research project that was at the same time feasible in one academic year and impactful at the same time. I'm mostly interested in understanding perceptions around climate change and how to bring social change and behavioral change that allows people to closely align their values with the decisions they're taking. The most rewarding element was being able to do field work in different parks across New York City, being able to interact with the diverse populations that live nearby these parks and learning so much about New York's diverse communities and the way they perceive climate change. The qualitative research that we've been doing in parks across New York City over this project is key to better understand our users' needs or citizens' needs, and as a policy sustainable development student, it's critical to understand our users' need to better develop policies that target these specific users in the best way.
Human exposure to heat extremes, it is right now at unprecedented levels in many parts of the world. And this has serious consequences in terms of health, food security, productivity, and many others. Our project contributed to the growing dialogue surrounding vulnerability and climate change. We started our project here in New York, and then we traveled to Dhaka to conduct an ethnographic study. We learned that people are well aware of the problem. They have a strong notion of the relationship between materials and house structure. They are well aware of the consequences and causes of heat. This practicum was as much a personal journey as it was an academic exercise. We deepened our knowledge on climate change. We understood more about the current coping strategies in this community. We learned about best practices in different parts of the world in the use of cool roofs. But I think the most important thing for us was to be able to actually be there, to talk to the people, to learn from them, to hear them.
Even though my paper is about the economic and the environmental impacts of Guyana going through the oil industry, what it came down to was the political side of things. So a lot of what's going to be the outcome of Guyana is going to be left within the hands of good governance, good leadership, and politics. Even though there's the economic dynamics and the environmental dynamics that are at play, it's really in the end just gonna mostly what I found is gonna be boiled down to good governance and the political arena. I had the ability to conduct reputable research and asking the tough questions to the right people. A lot of developing countries or developed countries have a lot of resource booms. If it's oil, if it's gold, whatever natural resource that is becoming in abundance, and they're discovering it and seeing how they can capitalize on it. I think that this project that I started with regards to the oil industry in Guyana can be templated for other countries that are going through similar resource booms or even going through the oil industry.
Colombia has some of the best climate researchers in the world, all put together in one organization, the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, so that's why I came to Colombia. We wanted to test a hypothesis about how high sea levels rose during the last interglacial period, which is the last time Earth was 2 degrees warmer than it is today. I learned a whole bunch about doing field research as a carbonate sedimentologist, exactly what I was hoping for when I came to grad school. I learned a lot about coral reefs, both now and in the past. As we've been hearing about with the Great Barrier Reef, coral reefs are the canary in the coal mine for climate change. So studying them both now and in the past is important if we want to understand how our climate system is responding to human activities.
Well, I really like the content. I've always been interested in sustainability and often on the technical side of food and agriculture, but now I got to see a whole different side of the whole field. I'm studying chemical engineering at Columbia, and one of my professors said that the job of an engineer is to take really big problems and break them up into small, solvable pieces. So I want to kind of apply that skill in the field of sustainability. My research supervisor is developing the project further. She went to Rwanda over the winter and plans to return over the summer, and the work I did helped her narrow in on a set of questions to ask during in-person interviews with farmers.
I spent the summer of 2017 in the Land, Ocean, Atmosphere Interactions group. I spent most of my time in that lab working on their NASA-funded interdisciplinary science project on water quality modeling and carbon cycle dynamics in the Long Island Sound. I particularly enjoyed learning about how to combine remote sensing satellite data with observational data and comparing these analyses both from sampling station to sampling station and over time. I was really grateful to be able to participate in a field cruise, so I was able to actually generate that observational data that we were processing in the lab. I also developed my lab technique skills, my computer programming skills, and I was really thankful to be able to learn more about workflow in an academic environment.
I took a course taught by Vidor Chopra in issues of belonging, and what I found is that there's this interesting connection as it comes to young people's feelings of belonging and how that really talks to and speaks to their feelings at school and their future aspirations when they are in the school environment. The students reported at least that they identified that belonging was when they felt a connection with others based on past experience or backgrounds. And what it tells me is that there is a sense of a revitalization of their identity when they come to the school that I conducted the research at, that they shed their vulnerable pasts and they really begin to reform how they belong, who they belong to, and how does that then connect to the person that they will become. This grant allowed me to peel back a few layers to really get at where is the future of peace building going in Rwanda, and where are the pitfalls and where are some of the successes that we can expect to see in the future, particularly from this population of orphaned and vulnerable youth.
This research is mainly a geophysics research, and by doing it, I confirmed that this is the field of earth science that I want to pursue in the future. So in the time I have left at Columbia, I want to take classes that are related to this subject in specific, so I can have the economic basis I believe I'm gonna need in the future. This project can be developed further by comparing the regions where these seismic anomalies are located to microcontinents around the world, because by doing this we can get a better picture of the mantle structure of the planet itself.
Through this project, I've really expanded my understanding of how chemistry happens in the atmosphere, how gases react with one another in the atmosphere to form pollutants. And specifically, the pollutant that I'm looking at is ozone at the surface of the Earth. I found my research, and I'm continuing to find my research, really rewarding because it's a field of inquiry that occurs at the intersection between science and policy. And a lot of times science really just occurs in that theoretical realm, and there's not that direct practical application. But because I'm studying air quality, I'm really looking at and generating results that have impacts on the quality of life of real humans. It's not just about understanding the world and broadening our scientific grasp on how the atmosphere functions, but also that it's about applying these results to improve humans' lives.
Our project involves finding opportunities in the retail industry where we can reduce waste The entire process is super rewarding because we started from doing background research on the retail industry, especially the furniture industry, and then we started looking at gaps and opportunities, and then we started thinking of ways that we could reduce waste, and then we came up with our product. So the entire process, seeing a product from start to finish, was very rewarding. It is definitely very important, I think, for the Earth Institute to fund projects like this because it really takes away all the worries about logistics and allow us to really pursue what we really want to do. If not, we might not be able to go, or we might be reluctant to participate in such events.
A key takeaway of my project has been that understanding the process flow in any system is only the tip of the iceberg in solving problems and inflicting change. As innovators, I think it is imperative that we dig deeper, understand the market dynamics that underpin systems, and understand competing stakeholder interests before we even define the problem statement. My study also looked at how designing and deploying the right economic incentives to get people excited as a key inflection point or a key leverage point can really enable the restructuring of systems today.
How communities, local governments, and private industry work together in a more detailed way to bring about this energy transition has been really rewarding for the reason that we got to see what we discuss in an academic setting come to fruition in the real world, and that's really encouraging as a sustainability professional. Doing this research kind of has changed my scope and given me real acuity to focusing on what are actually the things that the community cares about when these projects are being developed in their local regions. If we can actually make this 100% energy transition in New York and maintain the economic growth and environmental efficacy of the region, then we can kind of take this example and spread it through other regions.
These communities are organizing themselves to adapt to climate change. In this case, they are eager participants in their water management systems. They are not waiting to receive donations or projects or help from government, but are together coming to solutions for their well-being. This is a truly valuable experience so as to better understand the decision-making behind adaptation towards climate change. And coming from Argentina and interested in the Latin American context, I believe this very particular situation happening in Peru and the responses of these communities to these challenges could also be applied elsewhere in the region or even in the world.
It was a really nice opportunity to get the field experience and then use that, broaden it into the actual research experience, and then work with the data now. I think it's really important to fund these sort of things. Ours was important just in terms of, Staten Island is having a lot more cases of Lyme disease over the past couple of years, and so, our project was really focused on both the natural side of the system, but also the human side. So there was another group that would go out and do surveys of the people, of the residents of Staten Island, and see how much they knew about the ticks that they were coming in contact with daily. So there was a really important public aspect to it, and I think, that intersection between sustainability and public health is not necessarily addressed as much as it should be. So I think it's really valuable that institutions like the Earth Institute are putting money towards that.